What up, everybody? It's your boy Smooth Older, aka Real Ghost White.
Hey, this is Nikita, aka Jakari Star.
Yo, what's good? This is your boy Bob.
This is Kaya, aka Black Honey.
Hey folks, this is Corey, the host for Metal for Brains.
Your girl, she's supposed to be.
This is Greg, the infamous New Age Ike Turner.
Kicking it with the homie Corey, aka The Real Shitty. And now you're listening to On The Air Podcast.
And you're listening to the On The Air Podcast.
The On The Air Podcast.
The On The Air Podcast.
Starring you.
Starring you.
Starring you.
Let's do it again, good people. It's your boy Corey back, aka The Real Shitty on Twitter. Another episode of the OTAP show. I know it's been a minute, but we here one more time. We got the boy 5/5 Vann from the NWAPcast. What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. What's happening?
Not much, man. Look, I'm glad to have you on the show. I appreciate you for having me on for being on my show. Another thing is, I'm getting a lot of listeners from my episode on your show that we did a couple of months ago. So I just want to tell you again, I appreciate you for that. The idea is to get all four of you guys on my show so we can really just have us a great time.
Yeah, well, I've been having a great time with you, and we can keep moving forward, man.
All right, good.
Definitely.
Good deal. Let's start off with something light, man. Just where are you from?
I am from Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Rocky Mount, North Carolina, okay.
Yes, sir. So it's about halfway between New York and Miami on Interstate 95. And we got some of the greatest barbecue on earth.
All right. Okay. Give us one of the best barbecue spots, because I've heard about that.
So actually, I'd say the best barbecue spot, I'm going to go ahead and reverse what I just said about us having the best. Because I think if you are on 95, right, there's a little spot. I'm going to find you the actual exit number. On 95, it's going through South Carolina.
Okay.
Let me find where that bad boy is. Give me 30 seconds.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, but I stopped there with my dad a couple of years ago, and we ain't never, it's right outside of Florence. I want to say it's by, if you're from Quimby, South Carolina, it's by you, Quimby, South Carolina. So one exit going through there, right outside of Florence, and there's a little place that's on the service road of 95 going through Quimby, and they serve barbecue that has a green pepper sauce with it. And let me tell you that's I'm being the most southern I can because I don't know the exact name of the place.
And you named the rock that we turned on and everything.
Well, it is delicious.
Okay. All right, let's see. Outside of Florence is like 10, 15 minutes from Charlotte, right?
That's a little bit further than that.
Is it?
So Charlotte is sort of in the middle of the state, and Florence is towards the eastern part of South Carolina. So Charlotte's right above Rock Hill. And
that's what I'm thinking about, Rock Hill.
Yeah, you're thinking about Rock Hill. Yeah.
My bad. Okay. All right. Cool. And is that? Do you still live in Rocky Mountain?
I live in DC, in Silver Spring, Maryland now, right outside DC.
Okay. So so tell us about the transition from there, and how did you end up from North Carolina to Maryland?
All right. Well, I went to college in Morehouse in Atlanta, and
home team.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay.
You didn't know that?
No.
Oh well.
I didn't know that. Okay. Cool.
Went up to Chapel Hill for grad school, UNC Chapel Hill. Got a master's in public health, and went to DC to work at Kaiser Family Foundation at first. Mm-hmm. Got up there. I tell the story all the time on Twitter. My apartment was full of rats, and then I moved to a bigger and better apartment
with less rats.
With less rats, but still had rats. DC, everybody got rats. So we finally moved out right before I got married. Moved out to Silver Spring, Maryland. and we do not have rats. So it's. I feel like George Jefferson right now.
Hey, that's all right, man. What made you choose Morehouse?
So I actually was 17 when I applied to college, and I didn't really have much of a choice. So it's not one of those, I love Morehouse, with every last bit of me, but it's not one of those things where like I always want to go here or there. I got a scholarship, and my daddy was signing the form, so that's where I went.
So your dad told you to go to Morehouse?
He didn't tell me. He drove me down
This
and had my stuff in the car and said, "This is where you going to school." That's where I was going to school.
And you didn't. So how did you feel about that? Like your dad was just like, "Yo,
I hated it. I did not want to go at all.
You didn't.
I had applied to some places in North Carolina. I applied to Duke. I got into Duke. Got a scholarship. I'm not a big Duke person because I'm a UNC fan.
Right.
But I like Duke was I was still on my tip where I thought like white schools were had to go to a white school to like make it right. So I was like, I got into this good school. I want to go, Dad. And my dad was like, you going where they pay for you. So the two places where I got full, everything paid for scholarships were Central and Morehouse, North Carolina Central and Morehouse. And he thought it would be good for me to get out of the state and be less sheltered. So yeah. That was it.
Looking back at it, do you regret the decision, or did you enjoy it?
I don't regret the decision. I still think he could have involved me more in it. Because I think if we had more time to talk, I feel like I would have probably come around. But I was my head was so far up my own ass too. So you never know.
I got you. All right, cool. Did you pledge or anything?
Yep, I'm a Sigma.
All right, cool. All right, that's what's up.
Yeah, nasty con chapter, fall 07.
All right. So every time I have someone that's played, it's like I ask them because it's not that I'm ignorant to all of it, but some of it I just don't know.
Well, let me correct you. We are a non-pledging organization, so there was no actual pledging. Yeah.
Okay, I got you because I'm a part of an honors fraternity, right? Alpha Beta Kappa, right? So there was no pledging there. I just had to make good grades. So, and so from there you went back to North Carolina for grad school.
Went back to North Carolina.
Was that your choice?
That was my choice.
Okay.
I was very excited to get back. Was very excited to, this is, again, I was born a UNC Chapel Hill Tar Heels fan, and it was my time to be able to go see the games in person. Saw a UNC Duke game, so I was very excited about that, and that's where I met my wife. So, hey, all works out.
Did y'all got married earlier this year?
Yeah, we got married in May.
Oh, okay, all right, cool. And how's married life been treating you?
Oh, it's been wonderful, man. We are, we've been living here in Silver Spring, and every day it's just been a blessing. And we're looking for a house now. That's a little stressful, but we'll be all right. But it's just been great.
Do you all plan to have kids?
We do.
Let me ask this question about having kids and having to raise them in today's society. Have you given any thought to how you would teach them about racism and the things that we're going through now without basically appearing racist or turning them racist?
Well, I think about this all the time because it's sort of, my dad he writes books about lynching sort of as his career. He's an expert on like lynching in North Carolina. That's what he does. So, of course, if you can imagine my childhood, I grew up under a picture of W.E.B. Du Bois with photos of the stuff, his work on his wall. So his work is, like pictures of black people being lynched.
Wow.
I read the memoir about Nat Turner. Maybe when I was like 10. So I don't really know if there was ever a time in my life where I did not have a sense of what was happening with race.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say I want to do the same thing for my kids, but I don't know. I want them to be exposed to it early and to know what's happening and to see what's going on. But I do feel like, there's some ways you can go sort of overboard with, especially if you focus on if you don't focus on the elements of joy and how we've overcome.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So I think there's a way to balance, knowing what's what, knowing what's happening. I don't know if I don't think I can't teach my kids to be racist. I'm not sure if that's even possible for them, but I definitely can teach them, I think, the whole range of things, and not to see the beauty in what they can do in themselves, not to idolize a different era, but to see that, what happened in the previous era is also happening with them, and that they can, these aren't superheroes. These are people, and these are people like them. And so I think, that's that was sort of the approach with me, but I do feel like there's ways you can build on that. So
do you think it's going to be either difficult or, given away, the way police still kind of take their liberties with blacks, do you think it would be difficult or even hypocritical to teach your kids to have a certain respect for law enforcement, or how do you intend to deal with that?
Well, that's the central dilemma of most black parents, right? Is you have to walk a line between teaching your kids what's right and what should be and how to survive. So for me, I think my parents always knew there's not anything philosophically wrong with me wearing my pants a certain way or with, me mouthing off in a certain way to people who don't have any actual power over me. But, they always wanted me to learn that, mouthing off, even if if you develop a pattern of mouthing off, right, you got to know how and when to use it. Because if you talk back to police, even though you should be able to, because there's no legal whatever saying that,
right,
that you can't be smart aleck or smart mouth the police, but that they can and will kill you. And there's no way to find that out until either seen it or had it close to happening to you, and nobody wants that to happen to their kids. So it's tough. It's really tough, man. And I can't say, positively whether I will or whether I won't, be a certain way, because I do think things change in ways that you really can't fathom once you've already had kids.
That's deep. Taking it back to college just a little bit, what's one of the most valuable lessons you've learned? Because your dad said, he wanted you to get out of state and, be exposed to different things. Coming back to North Carolina, what's one of the things you feel like you've learned down here in Atlanta that you wouldn't have gotten in North Carolina?
Oh man, so for me, when I went to Atlanta, right, I got down there and I turned the TV on. It was the first day I moved into my dorm. I turned the TV on and there was a black anchor on the news. Mm-hmm. There was a black stock analyst. There was a black stock analyst TV show. There was, black people everywhere. There were black people. There's a black mayor. There were black politicians coming through here. Big deals. John Lewis, I saw him a couple days into my school career, and it was like, whoa. I'd never seen a place where black people were actually in charge and doing things and weren't sort of on the underbelly, the underclass of the city. And that really gave me a sense of the possibilities for being black. I got to see all the civil rights movements up, and not to see it wasn't just a one-time movement, but there were people here. There were people who were in local politics, people who still are in local politics in Atlanta, who are black and who don't think anything of it, and who succeed, who do their thing, and people aren't saying you can't do this because you're black. They just did it. And that was a big thing to me, because coming from Rocky Mount, which is very highly segregated, which has it does have black people in power, but only on the black parts of town in a lot of ways, and it's very segregated, half and half. All the white people get all the nice, rich places and all the. I've never really seen like a rich black person until I went to Atlanta either. Like not in person. I went out to houses and like T.O.'s houses out in the hills, and like you see all this stuff, and it's like, whoa, I'd never known or seen the possibilities of black people in that way until I went to Atlanta.
Were there things that you didn't know that you were able to do before you saw that? Like, for instance, did you feel limited in Rocky Mountain and getting to Atlanta, realizing, hey, you know what, I can do this too? And if so, what were some of those things you actually did?
Yeah, so one of those things is like I recently started a business. So one of the things was like owning and operating a business. I'd never, only real business I'd seen was, people like farming, owning farms and doing things, or maybe people who were, I don't know, that's mostly the extent of what I knew business or owning to be as a kid. And I'd never seen that. It wasn't really a possibility for me to be able to go out there and also being able to write too. So I went to Morehouse kind of thinking I kind of wanted to write in some way. There was no real outlet for people who weren't in traditional journalism, especially black people who weren't in traditional journalism, to write about black things. And the internet, the blogosphere was still in, its adolescence. So when I went to Atlanta, there were a lot of people doing that. And it was, so there was a lot of people writing about the music scene, about like black music. And that's how I started writing, was writing about going to concerts, got little money from local magazines, like 5 Points and stuff like that. Got a little money to go to concerts and write about them and write about how they linked to my experience, my black experience. And, that was something that I never thought was possible.
When you talk about the black experience, like I get it, around that time it was, it comes off as, this is valuable, they want to know about it. But do you think the term quote unquote black experience has been trivialized now? Like they only go to it for a token?
Oh yeah, and I think it's been sort of I don't know if I don't think it's the fault of a lot of black writers, but I think you get like there's a real concern with being published in like these serious quote unquote prestige places. And I think a lot of people make good stuff and end up getting pigeonholed, and they're writing the same derivatives of the same good stuff until it becomes not good, until it becomes like a stereotype of the black experience. And, but that's how it happens. I think there's a very strong tradition right now of black people's content becoming highly, monetized and derivative. And you see it happen a lot now with people. If somebody writes something that you really like about, black part of the black experience, and then you see 5 or 10 pieces sort of the same thing or the same setup about different things about black people, and then about a 10th article, you're like, what the hell is this? And then I think it sort of boils down like the black experience to one or two things. My wife is Jamaican, and we talk about this all the time. It's like, black experience to me doesn't mean the same thing that it means to her.
Right.
And I think, the more diversity you have, it is clear that a lot of these places don't actually care about diversity in black voices. They want to hear the easily monetizable hip hop version of whatever, right?
Right.
So it's weird because you do get a lot more voices now in like these super duper prestige places, again, quote unquote prestige places. But a lot of times they're not able to say real things. They don't have editors who are gonna be like, what the hell is this? Or they're not gonna have editors who are like actually questioning them to look at what's under the surface. And so there's no real development in the narrative. So it's weird.
I got you. Let's dive more into writing. So here's my take on you and all the months that I've been listening to the show and interacting with you on Twitter. I find you to be a writer. I find you to be a philosopher. I find you to be an activist, pro-black. What am I missing? You have a lot going on.
I'm a data person, and that's actually was the day job before I moved into full-time writing. Is I really care about like data and explaining how the world works with numbers and stats, and I think there's a lot of things we can collect data on now with what I do that help us understand the world. So I don't do it full time anymore because I am a writer now, full time. But I used to do like stuff where we would see in black neighborhoods, like how were how much you had to pay for groceries. How did that impact your ability to pay for, say, like a medical disaster? And you can do that with data, and you can show that in a well-written whatever, to try to get things, resources to send out to people. So that's a piece that's in there that I still do a lot, and still rely on a lot, is data.
So you could really tell when people were like really skewing numbers.
Oh yeah, and I think that's one thing now is most people in media need to take like a couple credit hours of a stats class or just basic understanding of data, because like the misrepresentations you see of stuff, it's staggering. Honestly, I go in the morning and count. I mean, of course, you have places like you have your Vox and your 538s, and some more financial oriented places that tend to get numbers sort of correct. But even then, when they are purposely manipulating them, nobody's going to be able to know when they report and reprint the stories. So it's like, basically at this point, journalists can say pretty much anything about what a number is supposed to represent. It becomes the truth.
Right. When did you first realize you had the gift of writing?
Let's see. So this one's a tough story because I am dyslexic.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this is obviously not the most obvious career path for me. But I'm dyslexic, and part of me being sort of defiant as a kid, because I was very stubborn, was I was trying, and people were telling me I shouldn't, I shouldn't write early. I wrote a couple of stories early, and they were like, it's not good. I can't understand it. And so me writing from very early on was always like a defiance thing. Like, I can do this. I don't care what you say. I'm going to make this happen. And then along the way, I think you love the things that challenge you the most a lot of times, and ended up, over time loving it and loving it not just because it was defiance, but because I think of myself to be a storyteller. So yeah, go ahead.
So let's do this for some of the listeners that may not know or have a complete understanding of dyslexia. Kind of explain that to them, and that way give a sense of how challenging this career path is, or what was at the time.
Okay, so dyslexia it's a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Most people think of it as like you're jumbling words or letters around, which happens for a lot of folks. But a lot of times that's not like the main impediment to learning and writing. So for me, a lot of folks, there's an organizational issue, which is the background issue for that letters and words jumbling thing. So for me, I have a lot of trouble with organizing things in a linear way. So most stories that people tell, most sentences people construct are very linear. So it's like, John went to the store yesterday. You have a time, you have a verb, you have a subject, you have a place, a destination. That's very linear, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, as an instinct, that wouldn't feel like a linear thing because it happened yesterday. or something like that on that order, or there was a syntax thing, or the concept of the alphabet itself was like very weird to grasp for me. And certain, I used to substitute letters out that didn't need to be substituted out, and the concept of words that sounded like each other. So a lot of things that can break up the way an easier linear construction of things were difficult to me. So the way people organize, like actually physically organize a notebook, you have a lot of people do different subjects, and they go from page to page taking notes on the subject. I don't find that to be the easiest way to organize things or the most intuitive way. I basically open a page and write somewhere, and I just have like a sense of where things are. So those things, and I'm not sure, for a lot of folks, those things are really like impediments to like ability to function. My biggest thing to me was I did not speak for a very long time. I learned how to speak late, and I had a very, a big anxiety about speaking. So it's just one of those things. All those things together, for me, made writing very, very difficult, because a lot of writing you learn early as a kid. First of all, you do it through speaking and repeating after people. You learn how to read a lot of times by reading out loud. You learn a lot of times people mistake handwriting or problems with handwriting for an ability to actually understand letters. And my handwriting, as part of my dyslexia, is absolutely horrible. So all those things is like very early on, the organizing, the ability to put strings of words together as full sentences, the ability to know when I'm making errors was very, hard to pick up on. That takes, it's doable because I do it, but it takes a lot more practice than it does for most folks.
So how is your dyslexia now? Because from the man I see before me and the things that I read, you're a very powerful writer, and you're a very powerful speaker. So how are you still quote unquote suffering? How do you manage it?
Well, I don't want to say suffering, because I'm of the opinion that dyslexia is not quite it's only a disability in the fact that we teach by a very dominant paradigm, or that we encourage writing and reading and speech by this dominant paradigm. I just think it's a different way of processing and thinking. So for me, it's, just finding the ways to adapt. It's never changing. I think that's never should be how you consider it. You should never be forced to like change the way you process things, because it's just not going to work. But figuring out like, okay, I can't write a story like outlining A to B to C to D through Z like other people are going to. I'm not going to be able to, like just pick up the pen and write from start to finish and look at it and be like, okay, that's what we're going to do. It's never going to happen. So for me, it's about building in the things and making them second nature. So the first thing I do with everything is in one sentence, have to summarize what it's about, and then compare that when I start and when I finish, what I thought it was about when I started and what I thought it was about when I finished. And then being honest about, whether I met my objectives when I was writing. And now that's like I do it so often, it's like a second nature thing. Also making sure I have really good people around me editing, because there are things that I just, there are things that I let slip. Like I for the life of me, there's words that I'm never going to be able to spell properly that I'm always going to spell as other words. So, my wife is an excellent editor. She's always there as a sounding board especially when I write late and I'm tired. And, she can help out with that. And also have a great group of friends who edit, who can help me out there. So, you just build the structures that help you get to, what I think a mainstream audience is looking for.
That's powerful. That's interesting. And it's reasons like this why why I do my show. Once every episode, and I don't tell a lot of people this, but once every episode that I do, I find something that's like, wow, like it takes me down a totally different path. Things that, as much as I'll look up about a person or as much as I read about a person, there's always something that just completely blows me away. And for you, it was definitely this. Like I had no idea, and there's like a stark contrast between you being such a great writer and then, you know, having to deal with dyslexia. And it's inspiring because here's what I hear from that. I wanted to be a writer, and I have dyslexia, and by the sheer will of me being rebellious is why I succeeded through this, and that's kind of like a message to some of the things that we're going through today. Some of the things, you know, you kind of have to rebel against the system to a certain degree. And I think that is a really, really great message. Like I tell people, the point of this show is everybody has a story to tell. And you definitely have a story to tell. So I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's also about Black love, you know, because like I wouldn't have been able to sustain that without my parents, without, you know, other Black folks around me. Like, look, you know, if it's what you want to do, then we're going to support you, you know, no matter how many times you mix up where and were what you do. We're going to call you out also when you make these mistakes, and we're going to help you be stronger. Mm-hmm. So it's really, you know, it's about that village. And I think, you know, I don't think I can say anything without acknowledging how strong my village was. Mm-hmm. So, and that, you know, Black people around me, I saw those people doing the things I wanted to do, and they never once told me that I could not do it.
That's beautiful, man. Do you remember the first article you wrote where you realized, you know what, I might have something here?
So let's see. I kept a blog. You know, I was doing it for a while, sort of blogging, writing in independent places, independent newspapers and magazines. But I wrote something about Kanye West, about his Yeezus tour. And so this is relatively recent, a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I wrote something about his Yeezus tour where I basically traced how his music led logically to Yeezus, which a lot of people think Yeezus is like out of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And no matter how you feel about it, whether you think it's good or not, a lot of people just thought it was just sort of like, you know, where the hell did this come from? But
right.
As I think I followed Kanye's career, you know, I don't think there's very, very many people who followed as closely as I did, you know, because College Dropout changed my damn life. But, you know,
Me too, brother. Me too.
I was like, look, you go and you check out, go listen to Watch the Throne and tell me that what happened on Watch the Throne did not directly like foreshadow what was going to happen in Yeezus. So stuff like No Church in the Wild sounds exactly sort of like proto-Yeezus. And I also was talking about philosophy about it and how Kanye sort of always has been this character. We always think it's like new Kanye, but it's not. It's just, I think, an evolution of like Kanye's best and worst. And I think there's most people who become famous, like it amplifies the best and the worst of you, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what happened with Kanye. I wrote about that, and it got a pretty decent reaction. It's one of the first things that I wrote that had like, you know, a lot of retweets, a lot of people saying, "Oh, I really enjoyed this," and so. You know, there is definitely a place for getting the affirmation from other people. You know, mm-hmm. Nobody wants to say they do this for attention, but you know, I can definitely say it feels damn good for people to say you wrote this and I enjoyed it, and it made my day, it made my week.
Oh, because at the
go ahead.
At the end of the day, when you write something, you know your thoughts on it because you wrote it, and when you put it out, you're interested in other people's thoughts on it, and so that's a form of that's like a form of currency when you write. You know what I mean? For people
Yeah,
to come back and say, hey, I really enjoyed this, or even for people to say, I didn't enjoy it, because you at least at the end, whether they enjoyed it or they didn't enjoy it, one thing, they read it.
exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, nobody wants to say they do this for other people's validation. And I did write before people read me, and I would still continue writing if people all of a sudden stop reading. Because I do this because I like telling stories and I like expressing myself. But there's so much there about writing, about telling stories. That's just having someone there to listen, and to listen to them as well when they say, "This is what happened. This is how I felt when I read you, and this is what I think about it." And it's like a constant chain of inspiration. It's like people tell me they felt this way. They had this different view of it, or they had I talk about like police things, or this happened to me with police, and that brings me as a writer, as a storyteller, down a different path, and I can keep telling these stories, and and I feel like you build that community, that sense of trust, and you end up being like an advocate for the people that read you. So it's a community.
Tell us about Seven Scribes, which I got to tell you, man, I think that's like the dopest name on the planet. Seven Scribes for a website, considering that's what you all do. Tell us about Seven Scribes and how it came to be.
Okay, so that blog I was telling you about, there were 4 people that wrote on that blog, but 3 of us got jobs, like real jobs, where we couldn't really blog as much. And so I was thinking how to continue what we were doing near the end of it, which was we started off being a place that was for young Black professional men to go and talk about their experiences in the first couple years of Black professional life. But then we ended up, this was sort of around the time when we were talking about Trayvon Martin and such. We ended up being a place where people were, all young Black professionals were going to talk about like the issues that were not just business issues, not just professional issues, but the issues in life, being a millennial and what was supposed to be post racial America, how it impacted you. So I thought about, I was sitting down with other people who ended up being the other scribes and thinking, how did we build that? How we build a place for millennials of color to really go and this is when the freelancing boom was taking place, and what we were talking about just now were like Black people were able to write in prestige places, but not about what they actually wanted to write about. We were like, how do we build a place where you can go and write about what you want to write about and not have to write about, if you don't want to, not have to write about the super serious Black issues, where you can write about being a Black otaku, or a comic book head, or a skateboarder, or whatever, or a historian. And how do we build a place that can hold all these narratives and uphold the highest of quality, and also pay and advocate for the people that write for us? And so that was our mission, and we built that place from that mission. We didn't have any outside money. We just put ourselves into it. And it finally came into being early this year.
Seven Scribes was crowdfunded, right? Like you launched a Kickstarter.
We launched a Kickstarter 3 months after we'd already started.
Okay.
We had a couple dozen articles we'd already done. Again, we built the website without. That's sort of the good thing about knowing a lot of different skills is, I was able to build the website, was able to put in new features, and we really called in some favors and some friends. And then about three months later, we were like, people actually were responding to what we did. In that first 3 months, in the first handful of articles, like they were already being cited in Vox and stuff like that. So we were like, we may have something. So we crowdfunded, and we got $15,000 from our readers to keep doing this thing. And we have a Patreon where we have people that can subscribe as they will, however much they want. It can be $1 a month, it can be $10 a month, whatever, just to keep us going. And we've got an excellent response from the people that read us, and I think it's because we've made it a mission to never sacrifice our ideals, what they need, and also making sure that all the people that work and write for us are taken care of.
That's awesome. Have you given any thought to doing anything like publicly or traveling with in promotional service Scribes, or doing like workshops or anything like that?
Yeah, so God willing, we're going to do some workshops at colleges and universities in the upcoming year. And I think that's because we do focus on young writers, and we like to be a place for people who haven't really gotten into this digital writing space before, but may have great ideas where they can sound off, and we can be good editors for them. So we want to go to colleges, universities, and do some pilot workshops where we get people into thinking about how do I, as a student, transfer what I know from English, lit and writing 101, 201, 301. How do I start thinking about that in a digital perspective? How do I start building my online voice? How do I take these lessons from Shakespeare and and from James Baldwin and get them, put them down not on paper but in an online platform? So that's what we're thinking about doing this year. We've got some great partners who are coming forward and really making it possible to do this. So we're excited.
I would love to be a part of something like that. I'm not sure how I could help, but if there's anything I can do to help promote it, maybe help get you all whatever you need, maybe promote it on the show. Maybe if you would have me even write something, if I can be a part of that and help you all grow, I would love to do that.
Well, you're in Atlanta now?
Yeah, I live in Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe our first pilot is going to be in Atlanta.
Okay.
I can't release too much of the details, but I do believe it's going to involve the alma mater. So I'll definitely keep you in touch with that, and we'll send something your way, because that's what we really want to do is make this whatever we do in Atlanta, we want it to be big.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, listen, I'm ingrained here. I got connections area, but most of my connections are here. Like, just let me know.
Will do. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Now the next one, you are a writer at, is it Daily KOS?
Daily Coast.
Coast. Okay, so let me tell you what I did. Right, so I struggled with this. I was like, all right. I was like, is it Daily KOS? Is it Daily Knockouts? Is it Daily Cost? Tell us. So it's officially Daily Coast. Okay.
Daily Coast, yes.
All right. So tell us about Daily Coast.
Okay. So I started there in late October. So it's been about 2 months now since I officially started. It's been a dream. So for me, they give me the structure and support of a major place that has resources, so I can go out and I'm basically covering this intersection of like justice, social justice, Black issues, but also other manifestations of that than just like, I cover a lot of police stuff, a lot of the stuff that Black Lives Matter protesters are protesting, but also like other things about Black lives. So the environment, our health, the policy behind our health, geography, zoning, those things, all the things that inform this central struggle of Black lives. And can you imagine how many places are out there that actually give people a space to do this in depth? So it's really been a dream for me. And they give me a good support network to actually go out and seek opportunities, say freelancing with 7 Scribes. They love 7 Scribes, actually, and that's something you can't really say of if you went to work in another publication that may have like a non-compete clause. So it's been wonderful. I've been really trying to dig down the rabbit hole of showing just how all these different factors really impact and shape the struggle for Black lives that people are on the streets fighting right now.
When you mentioned earlier that you're going into writing full time, was that with Daily KOS, Seven Scribes, or both?
That's with Daily Coast.
Okay.
Seven Scribes is not yet a full-time venture for me because I got to pay the bills. Seven Scribes is running. Seven Scribes the central offices of Seven Scribes are this very office in my apartment that I'm working in. And we do make enough money to pay people and to cover the overhead, but we do not quite make enough money with Seven Scribes to pay the actual lights in the office. So,
while it is a wildly popular website, it is a wildly popular website in the dark.
we gotta pay to keep the internet on, man.
Because without it, y'all ain't getting it. Oh man. Let's talk about NWAP. Yeah, NWAPcast, the critically acclaimed NWAPcast, man. That is such an awesome podcast, man. I was on an episode of you guys' show. Thanks for having me on. We had a really great conversation. Tell us about the show, your role on the show.
Okay, so of course you've had the rest of us on, so I don't have to really do like a rundown of how we started and what we do.
Right,
but like right now, I think we see ourselves as like the real. We come and give you an hour, just about an hour every week of 4 people who always have different opinions on things, but talking about what happened in, not just like the serious things in Black America, but, a lot of like the media, the entertainment, but what happened and what we think about what happened. I think right now there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of players in different media landscapes, but there's very few where that you just get to sit down and hear people actually be people,
right?
And actually, but not like a conservative talk show where it's people being people and being stupid. We come, we're informed, but we give you what I like to, think is a real sense of 4 different real opinions. So I think my role there is I'm definitely, especially since I do this every day now, I'm definitely like the journalist / fact checker of the group, right? So
yep.
A lot of times we need to introduce something that's been in the news. I'll do that. And I think I'm there a lot of times to keep people from going off the deep end in a lot of ways, because when you have real conversations, that's what happens, right? So that's sort of the role I've taken because we have very emotional people, very passionate people. And, I love it. I love the passion of Garfield, of Tunde, and of Desmond. And so I think where that places me a lot of times is say, let's keep it, let's keep an overview and not let sometimes the passion overwhelm what we do. And I think it really works because, like I said, they're very passionate, and I think we need sometimes to be able to pull back.
But you know what? It works though.
I think it works.
People love that. You know what I mean? Like, I think people gravitate to each one of you. Like people definitely gravitate to the way Garfield is unapologetic about what he says and his feelings towards certain things. You know what I mean? People definitely gravitate to you and Desmond's comic relief. And also Tunde. So I mean, it's like I think it's easy for people to listen to your show and to be able to get a dose of everything that they look for out of a show or out of a podcast. So it's really cool and it's amazing. And like I said, my listener base has definitely grown since you guys let me promote myself on your show. So I mean, it's folks out there listening. Like, I'll get emails from time to time, or people will go to my website and drop a comment and say, hey, I I heard you. I found this by listening to NWAP, and you know, it was a great job and all this, that, whatever. Now I love your show, so thank you. You know, I'd like to, if possible, some kind of way keep that joint venture going.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I don't think what we do works without like the four of us, and also without guests, without
Right.
people who come on and you know can give people a. I think sometimes you may need a rest from the four of us. So that you know we really enjoyed having you know folks like you come on and offer different perspectives in us, and also offer chances to talk about different topics. And so, you know, it's been wonderful, man. And, you know, we love having you on. And, you know, whenever you want to come on again, just let us know.
All right, cool. That'll work. I've been telling my girlfriend that she will be a great, because I know you all look for more female guests, right? And I've been telling her that she will be excellent. Like this is her conversation. And I believe I've seen her retweet you a couple of times, so I don't know if y'all follow each other or not. Her name on Twitter is Pinky Balboa, and I've been telling her, say, look, this is your, like, you are opinionated, like you'd fit right in, and I think they love to have you. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull a rank on that one, and kind of put my foot down and have her on y'all show. I've interviewed her a couple of times on my show. I interviewed her once, and then she interviewed me, but you know that's a different story. So yeah, you also you're like the engineer for your show also, right?
Yeah, I'm the sound engineer, and you know, pretty much all of what you hear, even the bad stuff, it's stuff that I put together. So you know, every time. I hate hearing bad things, but I do love hearing. You know, I think we've come a damn long way from where we started. We always make fun of like our first tape because it was trash, and you know, I've learned a lot about going to different like classes on this, and really tried to put together a professional product.
Because it's just me doing my show, I gotta tell you, like I've learned a lot about how to engineer my show just by some of the small tidbits that you're giving. And I don't even know if you realize that this is what you're doing. Like, for instance, something small as don't laugh in the mic. And I realized, fuck, I'm laughing in the mic. Let me stop doing that shit. That type of thing. So I mean, I pay attention to that. I'm trying to put together a show where it's basically just kind of like a starter for podcasts where I'm have different people from different podcasts that do engineering or things on their show, just kind of sharing the things that they learn in the programs. And when I put that together, I'd love to have you on there for that.
Oh yeah, I think that's really needed. So yeah, keep me posted on that because with the way podcasts are sort of exploding right now, like I can't see any reason why that wouldn't thrive.
Yeah, good deal. Let's talk about diversity in media. And how that's changed over the years. Is it still diverse now? Like, cause I'm seeing more and more Black people in different roles on TV and in executive positions. So if we're trending, if it looks like we're trending in that direction, and it's becoming more Black people, is that still diversity?
Well, I think you have to first realize, I think we got to make better definitions of what diversity means. Because a lot of times we think it means, we're going to see more Black people like in front of the camera. But also it's not just color. You don't want to see more Black dudes in front of the camera, right? Just more straight Black dudes.
Right.
So I think we got to expand our definition of diversity to really be inclusive of all different backgrounds, not just, we got more Black people out there. But also it's like, when we're talking diversity, are we really talking diversity at like every level? So again, we may get more Black people in front of the camera, but how many Black people do we have behind the camera? How many Black people do we have that are editors in different publications? How many Black people do we have that are producers on radio shows, who are talent managers, who are bringing in new Black people? And I think what you see happening is it's like a cycle because the only people that they hire in a diverse way are the people at the very surface levels who are easy to come and go. So when things get tight, they go. And then it looks, oh, we don't have diversity anymore. But these things wouldn't be so fragile if we actually had diversity at all different pay grades and different levels of what's happening. You got to have Black executives. You got to have, Latino executives. You got to have women at the top. You got to have, it's got to be a culture and a purposeful mindset of we're going to do this, even sometimes if it doesn't make us money right away, because we know it's the right thing to do, and because we know it's where media is headed, and we know that the people, we're trying to do right for the people that support us, and that's how you have to do it.
Gotcha. So racism in general, and I know we've had an extensive conversation about racism, and it's it's definitely not a laughing matter, but there are some things, there are some blatant forms of racism where you can't help but kind of just like laugh at it. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, sometimes just I sit and laugh a lot about racism.
What's the most outlandish form of racism that you've had in your face, like personally, that you've seen or had to deal with personally?
Well, this one involves, it's not a media experience, but it involves the police. So before I came to DC, I worked as a canvasser in North Carolina. So to give you a good sense of the difficulty of this position, it was a summer in North Carolina. And my job involved, out of 8 hours a day, 6 hours outside during the summer in North Carolina. And we were canvassing as part of an environmental group to stop fracking, which is a very liberal issue. Stop fracking in Appalachian Mountains. We were canvassing in rich white neighborhoods and conservative heart of North Carolina, in Raleigh and Cary. So it's a very difficult, I didn't go home very many days feeling very good about what I'd done that day. I got called, N-word a few times. I remember one day, a man with the actual Confederate flag tattooed on both of his biceps, shirtless. I was going up to, his yard was mad, covered in weeds and trees and vines. I actually was having trouble finding his front door. I was halfway up figuring, okay, I'm not going to go because this looks kind of sketchy.
He lived in Fern Gully.
Basically, and he ran out with a club. I'm got like a damn Fred Flintstone club. Telling me, nigga, you get out of like I don't want you near my house. You leave. And I was like, sir, you got it. But that actually wasn't the worst. So later that day, I thought basically if you want to talk to white folks, you want to go to sort of, I always had better times looking at middle class, older neighborhoods, because a lot, look at a little black boy, he's going, we like you. So I had good time cleaning up as the respectable Negro in middle class, older neighborhoods. A woman whose house had been broken into flagged me as suspicious and called the police. So to give you a sense of what I was wearing khakis, a poncho, and a fanny pack, because we had to wear fanny packs to carry the money and the promotional material. So I'm in the most herb gear of all time.
Wow.
And a visor, actually. So imagine the lamest dude you ever have seen walking through the street. I'm walking on the street. Two squad cars pull up on me. And, I had some run-ins with police before. People saw me and would call the police. It's no big deal. I would just be like, look, I have permission to be here. It's not against the law. I'm acting lawfully. I gave them a little paper saying who I was with, who I was from, and they let me go. This time, since I had been flagged as suspicious in an actual crime that happened, again, this is totally illegal. The police held me in the car without question or telling me what I've been suspected of doing for 2.5 hours, while they quote unquote tried to call my employer. And if you have ever done canvassing work, you know that 2.5 hours of missed canvassing, you blow your quota.
Basically,
I blew my quota.
Yeah.
Could not fulfill my quota for the week and was on like probation.
Right.
Because of the police. That's not even the racist thing, though. I mean, that was racist. That's not the most racist thing. So I got back to the headquarters and told them what happened. And the very first thing they did was ask me if I was sure and that I had not committed any crimes.
Wow.
And they would not assist me in like filling the police report out, complaint. They still held me responsible for every bit of money that I did not make that day, and told me, had the nerve to tell me that I was going to have to go out on Saturday and make back. I had the option rather to go back on Saturday and make back that, so I would not be docked pay.
Wow.
Yeah. So I quit. But that's it.
That actually blows my little story out the water. Like I don't even want to tell my story now. Like that's serious. Like, but it's wild.
That was a hell of a day.
Yeah. So the dude, the Flintstone Club, this happened in the same day?
The same day. I thought I was like, I got away from him, so I'm cooking now. But nope.
That was about to get you out of there, man.
Yeah.
Mine was, I'll never forget this. I mean, I've dealt. I tell people, I think, as black people, we deal with some form of racism every day. We don't always talk about it because we're pretty much accustomed to it and we know how to deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And people, and definitely people of other races and cultures find that hard to believe. But we don't complain about every bit of racism we have because it's kind of sort of expected. It gets to a point where as long as you aren't physically doing something to me or invading my space, I'm going to go ahead and still buy this stick of deodorant and you're going to be okay with it. Nobody has to say anything. But we can spot it. We spot a racist from a mile away. Like, and that's not being extreme. We just notice it. But I was in Barnes and Nobles. And it was so funny. Like, so me and my dad would go to Barnes and Nobles from time to time, and they'll just kind of be what we do. He go find his section to read books. I'll go read books. We'll compare books and whatnot. So I'm walking around this section, pulling different books off, because that's what you do at Barnes and Nobles. They have like little sort chairs on some of the rows you can sit down. So I'm looking at books. I'm like, oh, okay, this is not what I'm looking for, and I put it back. And there's this guy, and I noticed him on maybe 2 rows, right? So I started doing like stuff to see if this dude was really following me. So I would go to like you kind of go in, maybe if you're browsing, you kind of just casually browse up and down, a row and another row. So I would kind of make my eyes scattered. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to this other row and see. And then he'd kind of, pop up over there and look like he was, cleaning or putting stuff up. I was like, oh, okay. All right. This dude is following me. All right, cool. No problem. We could do this. So long story short, I had him believe I was on one row. So he went, but I actually went back around and came up behind him. And I asked him, I was like, can I help you with anything? And he jumped and looked at me. And I was like, yeah. And he understood what that was. And I just walked off. Dude was following me on every row for no apparent reason.
Good grief.
Yeah. I told my dad about it. After the fact because my dad grew up in the civil rights era. So that would have been a totally different situation had I told him after we got home, maybe a couple days later. He laughed at it then, but had I told him then, it would have somebody would have been took out of handcuffs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A couple more things because I want to talk about Star Wars in a second. Let's talk about Donald Trump. It's serious at this point, right?
Oh man, I've been trying to tell folks it's been serious, but nobody been trying to listen to me.
Man, so are you just as entertained by the Republican debates as I am?
I am terrified now. I don't know if I can say I'm entertained anymore.
Well, I guess because at this point, like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from. I hear a lot of what's terrifying about it for me is I hear a lot of the outlandish things that are being said over there. But at this point, it's damn near becoming a reality because of some of the people that's saying it.
Yeah. So that's the thing now. Is I feel like the rubber's really meeting the road now. Like you can see, even where the debates, like these people haven't even become president, but you can see how their rhetoric is like changing actual policy and how people react to the United States. So it's like, I can't imagine this is happening now. This is changing the actual national atmosphere now. What is it going to look like if any of these motherfuckers become president?
Right. Like Trump would really be a modern day Lex Luthor.
I like Lex Luthor. I think Trump would be like a modern day. I don't know, man. People use the Hitler, I think, comparison a little willy nilly, but he's actually threatening to like deport mass groups of people and put people in internment camps to outlaw, not just people, Muslim people. He's a very specific group of people, and I think that's really only one of the few things that recalls, and so it's scary, man. It's not, and you can make the case he doesn't really believe in it. I don't think he does believe in it because he'll say anything. But what you always see is these people, maybe they don't believe in it originally, but then it becomes more and more real, and it's very slippery slope between rhetoric and oh shit, we're actually deporting and killing people, and oh shit,
right.
We actually are a fascist country. And, like I think if you study history, you see how very quickly things go from this is a joke to this is reality, and it's too late to change it.
Right. Do you think? Well, let me ask you this: Who do you think is going to come out of the Democratic side? Because it's to me it's clear that Donald Trump is going to be the front runner.
I think it's going to be Hillary on the Democrat side.
Think so?
Yeah,
I think so too. Let's jump into a different form of politics. Let's talk about the Republic versus the Empire. Let's talk a little bit about Star Wars, and I purposely held this one towards the end because I didn't feel like giving the spoiler disclaimer, and I'm still not going to give the spoiler disclaimer because you've already heard Star Wars, so we're about to talk about it. So I saw the new one actually twice, and I know that you have. What's your thoughts?
So I'm going for a second viewing early next week.
Uh-huh.
First of all, I loved it.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of people who are joyless people in their lives, and who are saying all types of things, but it blows away my expectations of anything post the original trilogy.
Yeah,
and I think that this has maybe the best characters and acting in it since the very first Star Wars.
absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, I'm thinking I loved Rey and Finn, and also Poe. And they were spot on with the casting choices there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, I think, exciting to see a generation of people who look more along the lines of what I am used to seeing in society,
Mm-hmm.
be in Star Wars now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think there's so much depth to to the new characters now. There's so much depth behind them, and I think it was purposeful that a lot of the questions remained unanswered. Let me get your thoughts on Kylo Ren.
Okay.
What did you think about him?
I absolutely love Kylo Ren. I feel like this is a redo. Again, spoiler alert.
No, it's cool.
No spoiling. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool because again, By the time y'all hear this show, y'all should, hey, listen, it's y'all job to police yourselves, okay?
So, we know Kylo Ren is Darth Vader's grandson. And I do feel like he is what we were supposed to get with Anakin in the prequels. So I feel like he actually pulls off that whole mix of, he's was born with great power. He's very petulant and arrogant, and he doesn't quite know if he wants to be on the dark side. He's being used by other people, and he has he's like a mouse caught in a trap almost in certain ways. But he's also that makes him very dangerous and evil, and he knows, and he kills his father because he's like, I guess it's a Skywalker thing to do at this point, but also that's like his rites of passage.
He's officially a Skywalker now.
First of all, I don't know why the hell we keep letting Skywalkers become Jedi. I feel like we should, at least now, we should probably chill out on that. Like if Rey is Luke's daughter, we should just chill out on that.
It's not worked out good for mostly anybody.
It's not working.
And they all get their arm cut off at some point.
Yeah, honestly, like, if I'm anybody else, I'm like, look, why are they why are they still around? Because
it's real hit or miss with them Skywalkers, man.
In the original trilogy, who thought it was all that great an idea? Because people knew to have the two children of your worst enemy, who are also strong in the Force, to be your commanders. Just like
right. Their pops kind of is the leader of the Galactic Empire. So I don't know if y'all thought this was fight fire with fire, but I don't know if that's the route I'm gonna go with y'all. Type of thing.
It's sort of like, I feel like if this was real life, right? And say we were having the Civil War, and on your side you had like Civil War II, say we had another war, or like the American Revolution and the War of 1812, which happened after against Britain, and you also had like British commanders who were like, yeah, we've we was on Britain's side before, but we cool with y'all now.
Right.
And you gotta sit there, you gotta really think about it. Like, I don't know, man.
I don't really know, brother.
And so, Luke has a nephew, and he's like, okay, I'm going to train you. And Kylo Ren, accepts his training. I think the very first, you got to try really hard here. Like, okay, are you meeting on the side with, potential dark Sith lords? Like, maybe not let him go out to the edges of the galaxy where he can meet up with these people.
Right.
I don't know. It just seems like I would take more precautions, at least, if I'm training Darth Vader's grandson to be a Jedi person, or maybe think twice about doing it in the first place. I don't know.
Well, Yoda didn't want to train either one of them, really.
And Yoda's right.
Yoda wasn't trying to train neither one of them Skywalkers.
And I think there was that time, Luke was damn close to going to the dark side. Yeah. So it's like, let's maybe we got less powerful Jedi, but I always said this. It's always the weirdest thing about the Jedi to me, right? Is it like the number one feeder school for the Sith?
Exactly. You know what I tell people? Really, the difference between a Jedi and a Sith is really just a matter of perspective. That's really all it is. I can't really find, when I look at the traits of what a Jedi is, and when I look at the traits of what a Sith is, I can't really find one thing that has me like, well, this makes one good and this one makes one bad. Because if you think about it, Jedi are more reserved and they're reactive as opposed to being proactive, and the Sith, they're more proactive and they embrace like power and things like that. I don't think that makes either one good or bad, really. It's just a matter of perspective.
Yeah, and the Jedi. I mean, I don't know how much you want to take like the prequels to be, whatever. But in the prequels, the Jedi were like basically leading a government, like they had taken over the government, right? So it's like, how are they that incredibly different? Now the government's giving them powers to do what they want. They're the generals, they're the political leaders, they're carrying out assassinations of people.
Basically.
They have missions to go and assassinate enemy leaders, people who aren't even actually enemies a lot of times. Like, it gets really blurry. And then you got it's inevitable every time they get into a fight. And every time anything happens to Jedi, they end up creating the people that end up killing most people anyways. Because let's think about it. Like, do other people think the Jedi and the Sith are like totally different, like institutions? Or do they think people are like a lot like say, in the prequels, Dooku. To most people, I believe Dooku was just like a Jedi.
Yep.
Do you have? Was he going to people saying, I'm not on the Jedi team no more?
No.
Yeah, so it's rough. It's rough, and I would definitely think twice about continued training. I probably would think twice about like letting the Skywalkers continuing to like have kids. Because that's not working out. It's just not working out.
Right. I'll give you my assessment of Kylo Ren. I found Kylo to be very powerful. I'd not seen anybody stop a lightning bolt when it was getting shot.
Oh man, that blaster.
When he stopped it, I was like, okay. But and I really dug the voice in the mask. I thought that was super dope. But I found him, as powerful as he is in the Force, I found him to be incredibly weak. I get it. A lot of that is about his character development. I like the character. I like the character a lot. But in terms of the framework of this, I found him to be weak. Like, and a lot of that is because he really is, like you said, he really does have an internal struggle between the light and the dark. But I think once he finds his way in one direction or the other, he's going to end up being one of the most powerful people in the story.
I like that actually, having a weak villain, because it never has been one.
Yeah, you're right. He seems flawed, and I think that's dope.
Yeah, because even like the sub villains, because he sees a long history of apprentice villains, right? So even like Darth Maul was like already at the height of his power and was like badass. You can't imagine like Kylo Ren's basically using all natural. He's the kid right now. He's using all his natural abilities, but doesn't really have like he's still a child. So I think it's a good opportunity. As much as we're going to see the hero grow, we're also going to see him grow at the same time, which I think is something that hasn't been done. I'm excited about.
Yeah, that is true. Do you think Rey is a Skywalker?
I think Rey's a Skywalker. I'm actually going to be upset if she isn't, even though I think it's corny, because they did too much foreshadowing. Like, she was born, like she lived on basically Tatooine,
basically
in all but name.
Right.
She's got the same power with droids and electronics that all Skywalkers seem to have.
It's a Skywalker trait.
Yeah, this is a Skywalker basic trait. She has a bond with the droids, similar to Anakin and R2, and then Luke and R2. And R2 woke up when she came to the base.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to be upset if they did all that foreshadowing and she's not. Because that last scene to me was like one of the best things I've seen.
I think it's funny how on the poster they got Finn with a lightsaber, like he really knew what he was doing with the lightsaber. And then when you see him and don't get me wrong, I like the character of Finn, but I was like, man, this dude don't know shit about this lightsaber, man. They had you thinking he was actually gonna be the Jedi.
I never thought he was.
No?
Because I sort of keyed into the how much they were trying to replicate a lot of things. So once he started wearing, the preview showed him wearing a leather jacket, I was like, he's going to be the Han type character.
Ah.
Yeah. Unless they were doing some real big misdirection, she already wore sort of similar robes to Padawan robes.
Yep.
She looks very similar again to young Anakin.
Yep.
And so I was just like, look, she has to be the Jedi. I didn't think there were going to be more than one. So.
Okay. Cool. I'm trying to think, what else am I missing about the movie? I thought it was really cool. I came home and I was reading about it, and it's kind of not mentioned, and it's because he didn't want it that way. But actually, Daniel Craig was one of the
You know which one he was, right?
Yeah. He was the one that where she used the mind trick on.
Yep, he got mind tricked. So.
Yeah, I thought that was super dope. That was cool. And also, what do you think about the variety of stormtroopers now and them not using clones?
Well, they should probably. I'm gonna be real, because the stormtroopers were actually not trash. And
Right.
The first movie in which a stormtrooper shot a hero.
Yep.
Because they shot Chewie.
Yep.
And so I thought that was a good, they are better shots now. They're not trash. But I still think the clones would be a lot better, because the clones kill everybody. They killed all the Jedi. Maybe that's why they don't use them though. It's because the clones are too powerful, and they could be a threat. Whoever Sith is in charge of them.
It was really cool to see, like, you could really notice the difference of ranks in stormtroopers. Like it's a legit army now. So I thought that was cool. Poor Chewie, man. It's like, my first thought was like, after Han Solo died, my first thought was like, man, like you pledged your entire life to they basically protect him, and I don't think he didn't feel like he didn't protect him, but I almost got a sense of Chewbacca was alone now.
Yeah, I didn't imagine myself being able to feel sad for Chewie like that, but
Me either, right? Yeah.
I felt really sad, but I think he found himself a new partner.
Yeah.
And especially given how similar she seemed to be to Han Solo in some ways, and they were looking for a second person. I think she's gonna be the Millennium Falcon's gonna be hers now, and Chewie's gonna be her friend.
I felt like even with Han Solo dying, I felt like there was growth in Chewbacca. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like because until that moment, he was just a sidekick or a secondary character. I think that pushed him forward.
Yeah, like that. I mean, again, finding emotion out of Chewbacca is weird to me. But like when he shot Kylo, I was like, damn.
Like, he's really pissed.
Yeah.
So yeah. All in all, man, I think it was a great movie. I didn't think we were going to get to see Luke. I didn't think that at all. I was like, man, it's getting close to the end. They're not finna show Luke. Then they actually did show him. I knew immediately when Han Solo came from around that corner. I was like, man, don't stay where you at. Don't come back around that corner, man. Don't do it. Don't walk on the bridge. Don't get close to him. I knew he was gonna get killed. And I was like, fuck. But
yeah, I knew he was I knew he was gonna die. First of all, the Empire really should put rails on their catwalk. It's getting a little ridiculous.
Right. And there is no safety inspection on any of the Star Destroyers or any.
There's no OSHA. There's no occupational safety people in the Empire. They just don't care. And I don't know if that's there got to be some lawsuits around there.
Exactly. And we've seen quite a few people fall off that bridge.
Exactly.
Arms and everything. But yeah, like the second that music went silent, I was like, fuck, that's it. Stabbed his ass. Got him out of there. So yeah. What do you think about the rumors that Supreme Leader Snoke is actually Darth Plagueis?
So I thought about that. I don't understand why there would be so smoke and mirrors about it, since it's not like he's was in the previous movies anyways.
Well, he was mentioned in
He was mentioned,
yeah.
but I still don't see like why would he have a fake name? Why would they be so stealth about it?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to me to be like a useful thing to do. So I'm doubtful about it being plays. I can see that happening. But my guess is that it's going to be like maybe he's like an original Sith, or maybe he's like an original dark side wielder. Because he seems to be pretty old. So I'm thinking he could be some like ancient something that we haven't seen before. Because he never actually used the word Sith. We don't know if Kylo Ren is Sith or not. We know he's a dark side user. But again, the Sith are only one part of the dark side as far as we know.
Cool. So let's do this, man, before we get out of here, man. Go ahead and plug everything you got, what you got going, where they can find you, all those great things, man.
All right, so my name is Vann Newkirk. You can find me on Twitter at 5/5. You can find what I do for my day job at Daily Coast, dailykos.com, and look up my name on there. And I do a lot of good work. Daily Coast does a lot of good work as well. You can find Seven Scribes, that project at 7scribes.com. Check us out. If you do enjoy what we do, feel free to check out our link for crowdfunding at patreon.com. And also, the reason we're here, you can check out my podcast, NWAPcast, Negros With A Podcast, at Negros, Negros, like Spanish negros, with a podcast.com, and also NWAPcast on Twitter.
That'll work. One other thing, man, I meant to ask you, what is 5/5? Where does the name come from?
Okay, so it's a slavery reference. So the slaves were 3/5 of a person on the votes. And so I was doing sort of voter rights stuff when I made the name, and thought, I wanted to push for black folks' votes to count as one. So that's where it came from.
That's dope.
I wanted to be the representation of that.
That's dope. 5/5. I'm with it. Excuse me. That's dope. So this was 5/5 Vann. And again, you guys check out his websites. Check out where he writes. Definitely check out the NWAPcast. I thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me so much.
I'd like to thank our guests for coming on today. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to OTAP@writeme.com. Follow the conversation on Twitter by searching the hashtag OTAP, that's OTAP, or following us on Twitter at OTAP Show. You can find the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Android users can listen to the podcast on Podcast Republic. Just download the app and search OTAP Show. On behalf of our guest, I'm your host, Corey, and I'll see you back here next week on the Air Podcast, starring you.